All right, let's get started. What? All
That was
cops
my-
are bastards. ACAB. All cops are bastards.
Is a common theme that you hear out there, everybody
Yeah.
chanting and whatnot.
During the George Floyd protests, you know, the aftermath of all of that, people got out on the streets and they were fighting for, against police brutality.
Mhm.
And so the squad, of course, relayed that by talking about police brutality. They talked about George Floyd. They said they even called to defund the police. And people were like, wow, the squad, yay, they're doing this, right? That was a year ago. But actually recently, and we did go over this, they actually voted to give money to the police. Not all of them, but we'll talk about why it was still a virtue signal, meaning like it was all theater. Not the people who voted no to also keep the appearance up of being the anti-police squad. We'll talk more about that. But I wanted to first show this video of Cori Bush saying that she needed to have security around her.
Into social safety.
Let me to bring my...
The thing. I won't let them get that off. You can't get that off. I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now for me to allow that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend 10 more dollars on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police and put that money into social safety nets. The thing. I won't let them get that off. You can't get that off. I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now for me to allow that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend 10 more dollars on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police and put that money into social safety nets.
Okay.
Suck it up, fam.
Right. So
Suck it up.
while she's saying defund the police, she is also saying that she needs to, and ramp up security for herself. And I totally get that she feels her life is in danger. I'm sure a lot of people who are right-wing don't like her. A lot of people like us also don't like her, but for different reasons, or don't like her policies. It's not even anything about her as a person. What do you guys feel about that? Because for me, it's like, I'm done with the whole politicians are a separate class and they should be protected with security guards. Do you have security guards walking around protecting your life? Why does their life matter more than ours? That's essentially what she's saying.
Yeah.
She's saying, and our life matters more than the rest of you all. You're all just here and we're
Suck
here.
it up, fam.
Like, that's not how it should be. And I know this is nothing new, but like, I don't think people have really thought about this. Like, why is it okay that rich people and politicians and celebrities get to walk around with security and armed people, and yet they get to disarm everybody else? And you see it with the mask thing too. Like you'll see like the Kardashians completely maskless on their vacation, but all the staff wearing a mask. And you see it like that time and time again. It's this sort of like elitism, and they're putting that in on every single level.
Yeah. Well, to me, the thing that really stands out is the hypocrisy, right?
Right.
Because there's an argument right there. Defund the police. We always said it wasn't the best message, but we understood what it meant. We have to really reimagine the
wording of
police.
it.
We have to reimagine the police. When
I
we
don't
talk
even,
about,
yeah.
Go
I mean,
ahead.
that one, I was just going to say, I don't even know if I would even say those words would be it. I know what's his name was here. Garland was talking about it.
Yeah.
I would just say we need to like specify what it is, like what we're doing.
Yeah.
That either one doesn't really specify, and reimagine was also used by Barack Obama too. So
Yeah, I hear you too, and I think Johnny used it once before. We were talking about it.
yeah, Johnny did too.
Where we feel that the police needs to be not necessarily defunded, but moved and money moved around and situations change. Where number one, we don't want them militarized, right? We don't want them having army vehicles on the streets, high grade weapons, that kind of thing. Number two, we've always talked about like, okay, the police can't have oversight on themselves, right? They can't investigate themselves. We have to have another body go in there and investigate police and hold them accountable when they do commit crimes, right? So whatever defund the police means to you, whatever
right,
it is.
because to me, defund the police means like for me, I don't want the police to exist the way they do now, period. That's I disagree with you. Like for me, like I don't think we should just move money around. I think for me, it's like they're so rotten that we can't fix it. So for me, it's like I want to do a whole type of different system where it's not really people policing other people. So that, like, again, so it, you know, that's what, because you're saying we, and I just wanted to clarify. I have a different position.
I'll say me. So me, and your position is different. But whatever the case may be, they're being very, very hypocritical with it, what they're doing. Right. So whether you believe in the police should stay the way it is, whether you should be reformed, whether you should be the way Fee says and change it and stuff, they've used this to go ahead and kind of promote their brand as like, we're going to take on the police, we're going to knock them down, we're going to take away their money, we're not going to let them exist the way they are. But yet when it comes to themselves, it's okay for police for me. So so it's hypocritical at best is what I'm saying. So we all have different ideas about what the police should be.
That's kind of like the problem.
Yeah.
Because then it's like this brand of a general thing where different people think different things, and they're just capitalizing on that politically. Yeah. They're just using a slogan to get votes from the left and progressives without specifying what they mean, and simultaneously supporting legislation that contradicts that stance, which is what they've been doing pretty much at every turn, which is why we criticize the squad more than Republicans, because Republicans never promised to defund the police. They told you straight up, no, we love police, so back the blue. So okay, I know where they stand. They're not gonna move on that. So who's supposedly going to move on that? Oh, it's progressives, which is why it pisses me off tenfold when they lie.
Yeah.
So
and the whole thing is there's too much wiggle room when you have a catchphrase like defund the police. It gives these politicians too much wiggle room to say, oh, I wasn't talking about defunding them there, I'm talking about defunding them here. And you can constantly change the goalposts like Cori Bush is doing, and literally telling people to suck it up that she gets more security while they got to defund the police for everybody else is just going to come off as hypocritical at best. You know what I'm saying? But these are the issues we face.
So the squad called to actually defund the police, but then quietly caved when it really mattered. If you guys, we talked about this, I think back in May, and so they could have actually stopped this bill. That's what was really obnoxious about it, because it was six of them. And they could have collectively stopped the 1.9 billion increase in the Capitol Police budget from happening. And it's, of course, that also went into security. We went over it with Jonny. It was like the FBI had some, the NSA, and Glenn Greenwald, of course, outlined this in his article. That was a really good article. And that funding, it was $1.9 billion for the Capitol, would have completely been dead had the squad not voted present. And so specifically, AOC, Jamal Bowman, Rashida Tlaib all said defund the police and blah, blah, blah. But then they voted present. They were going to vote no, right? They told everybody, we're going to vote no. Yeah. All the activist groups, we're going to vote no on this. We don't want more money for the police. But then when they realized that would have killed the bill, because they were just going to vote no for theater.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the whole point. They were going to vote no for theater. But when they realized that would kill the bill, 3 of them voted present, and that allowed the bill to pass. Yeah. So they voted against some Republicans, which was hilarious, for more police money. And of course, this is where they play team sports. The only reason the Republicans were voting no was because it was about January 6th, a lot of them. And the only reason, they were voting present was because, we have to show loyalty with the Democratic Party and blah, blah, blah. So it was a whole virtue signal theatrics. And so it also included them getting police funding for themselves.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. When it's Capitol Police, it's a little bit different than regular police, whatnot. The Capitol Police is specifically for the majority of the members of Congress, so they get extra protection and whatnot. And this is one of the most telling things out there, fam, this particular present vote, because their overlords, their bosses told them vote present to let it slip by. And this is something that where you have to call the squad out. And if I was there, I would have said on those steps, AOC, why did you vote present on the Capitol funding police, the funding for the Capitol Police bill? Why did you vote present, Jamal Bowman? Why did you do that? Right? Because it was just as good as a yes vote. Because it helped pass through, it allowed it to get through it. And that's why I'm saying when it comes to these votes, you got to pay. We as a nation have to start paying more attention to what's going on in Congress. The way Jonny kind of pulls up the bill and looks at its stuff. This is very important because this is all telling on what they're doing.
So just so you guys know what Pasta said is true, they actually pulled a meeting with Pelosi and the leaders of the Democratic Party, and they basically said, okay, you guys are gonna have to vote. Some of you are gonna have to vote present so this can pass. That literally happened, and it's described in multiple articles. But you can see here, this is a final vote results from the roll call 156, and that's the next tab, Johnny. It's the yay and nay passage on May 20th.
Look at that.
2021, and you guys will see the AOC and well, this is the yays and the nays, and then there's present, and there's 3.
Yep.
Those 3.
Yep.
On the Democratic side, of course, are AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Jamal Bowman.
And if the 3 vote nay, and you can see them right
pass.
there, it doesn't pass.
Yep.
The police are defunded.
Yeah.
You're literally going to defund the Capitol Police that way. You're not going to give them extra funding. So their nay is just the same as a yay. That's what I'm saying. Their yay, it would be, it would be 215 to 213. Their president is just the same as a nay. So. Yeah.
Exactly. And so in addition to that, one of the things that Franco got so much pushback for, and when he went down there to cover, is that he said they voted to give more money to Israel. Max Blumenthal also hinted at Adam Schiff's money to Israel, etc. And people are like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it has everything to do with everything, because a lot of her money goes to Israel, and Israel has Medicare for all. They have health care for everybody, universal coverage for their people specifically. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, you can't ask those questions when so much of our foreign policy is our domestic policy. But Franco had to clarify. When he said he meant specifically certain members, and one of those members, it was Ilhan Omar, who was there taking pictures at the Capitol. She was there hugging AOC and Cori Bush. Now, AOC and Cori Bush did not vote for this particular bill that we're going to go over, but Ilhan Omar and others, I believe Bauman did as well. So Ilhan Omar backed the $62 billion bill that included continued unconditional support for Israel, okay? And Ilhan Omar, out of all people, right?
Yeah, she's the one who did the bling bling one, right?
Yeah, and well, she's also gotten so much backlash from AIPAC and all of these, pro-Israeli groups. She has been smeared to no end. But this whole bill actually was an approval of annual U.S. foreign operations related programs funding bill. That's what it was called. And it, among other things, greenlit Washington's yearly $3.3 billion in unconditional aid to Israel. And it surprised everybody. Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Lee Bauman, I think they met Jamal Bowman, and Pramila Jayapal, split with the squad of Rashida Tlaib, AOC, and Cori Bush in securing the narrow victory for the Democratic Party. And they have been critical on Israel, but again, the bill passed narrowly, 217 for and 212 against. Do the math. I mean, just a few less votes, it wouldn't have gone through. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And so they take turns.
Exactly.
They take turns as to who says nay and who says yay. And that's what Glenn Greenwald was pointing out in his article. This is all for show, because they're like, okay, this time you guys vote nay, we'll vote nay.
Very strategic about it, fam.
We have to appease our progressive, sector of the people that are loyal to us, because we can't all just show that, And this is what politicians do. This is mostly of what they do.
Yeah. It's funny because Cori Bush got to vote the proper way twice. Jamal Bowman had to vote twice the other way. You know what I'm saying? He had to go vote president at one time, letting it go through, and he had to split in this particular one.
Yeah. So I want to, unless you want to read anything else from that, I want to go over the text. Yeah. So the bill also includes funding for the Department of State. But I wanted to read how that's related, because it's not just, the $3.3 billion in aid to Israel is one aspect. The rest is like NEDs, NGOs. They talk about the Peace Corps. They talk about all of this crap that, is just complete like garbage for a U.S. foreign policy, USAID, etc. So, it's also, by the way, before we go into that, I just want to point out it's a very anti-BDS bill. Like, it's completely against, it destroys the idea of BDS completely. So this is the bill. It was HR 4373. of the 117th Congress. So this is the latest Congress that at that time. And it was in the House of Representatives. Miss Lee from the Committee on Appropriations reported the following bill. And it makes appropriations for the Department of State, Foreign Operations, a related programs for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022, and for other purposes. And again, I'm just going to read the very first part. The Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assemble that the following sums are appropriated out of the money in the Treasury as otherwise appropriated for the Department of State, Foreign Operations, and related programs for this fiscal year. And there it says Department of State and related agency. And then it talks about the expenses, foreign service, and other not otherwise provided. It goes down the list as to the money appointed for overseas programs, for diplomatic policy, etc. And until you get down, Johnny, you're going to get down to the picture. Exactly. So you can see it right here. I think it's at page 44. I'm just going to read that one. Under Foreign Military Financing Program, for necessary expenses for grants to enable the president to carry out the provisions of Section 23 of the Arms Export Control Act. There it is. I think that says $6 billion, right? $6 billion, $175 million for $124,000 provided. That to expedite the provision of assistance to foreign countries and international organizations, the Secretary of State, following consultation with the committees of appropriations and subject to the regular notification procedures of such committees, may use the funds appropriated under the heading to procure defense articles and services to enhance the capacity foreign security forces, provided further that of the funds under this heading, not less than $3,300,000,000 shall be available for grants only for Israel, which shall be distributed within 30 days of enactment of this act. Provided further, that is to the extent that the government of Israel requests that funds be used for such purposes, grants made available for Israel under this heading shall still be as agreed by the United States and Israel. And of course be available for advanced weapon systems. And then they talk about, the specifics. We've actually covered this before, so I'm not going to continue to read that much more of it. But I just wanted to remind everybody they voted for that, and that was recent, as of May. And this is all in accordance to this memorandum that was pushed under President Barack Obama. Under President Barack Obama, there was a memorandum of understanding that was reached with Israel. And this memorandum of understanding, you can see it, this was dated 2016, and it says, under President Obama's leadership, the multifaceted cooperation between the United States, Freudian slip, between the United States and Israel has reached unprecedented levels. This is particularly true with regard to the security of Israel. The new 10-year Security Assistance Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU, to Israel is the most recent reflection of President Obama's unshakable commitment to Israel's security. Under the new MOU with Israel, the Obama administration has made the largest single pledge of military assistance in U.S. history.
They're proud of it, fam.
The total value of the MOU, which covers for year 2019 to fiscal year 2019 to fiscal year 2028, is $3.8 billion per year. It will succeed the current $30 billion MOU signed in 2007, which will expire at the end of 2018. Like I said, this was 2016. The amount represents a significant increase over the current MOU by every measure and will enable Israel to acquire additional advanced military capabilities from the United States. $33 billion for military FMF funds and an unprecedented $5 billion commitment to missile defense assistance. This will be dispersed in equal increments of $3.3 billion in FMF and $500 million in missile defense funding each year for the duration of the understanding. And it will permit Israel to update its lion's share of its fighter aircraft fleet, including through the acquisition of additional F-35s, missile defense, and other capabilities to meet its threat environment. So I mean, it's the largest funding ever by the United States to anybody else, and it's basically just weapons and everything that we have seen Israel now continuously bomb Lebanon just recently, Syria, of course, what they do to Palestine. We've seen the protests that have erupted regarding Palestine, and it's kind of crazy to me that this is something that a lot of people slept on, because we talked about it at the time, but like, come on, guys, like, this is the squad. This is like foreign policy, and I think a lot of progressives like push foreign policy aside, or they cherry pick. Oh, but they voted against it. But really, when you look at the way the voting is done, how calculated it is, you can tell that that they obviously planned to do it specifically for these bills to pass, because their votes would have made the difference. Yep. So what the hell is the point of electing them if they're going to vote or manipulate it so they, at least half of them, vote in line with Pelosi and the establishment Democrats, when they're pretty much doing the bidding for them? But it's worse because they're pretending that they're actually against it. And to me, that is 10 times worse. I'm sorry. It's like 100 times worse.
Yep. Jeez. It's so funny, too, because it's just like, I was just about to say, fam, the reason why we vote for them is they align with our values more than the Republicans. They're more like us, you know what I'm saying? So, therefore, we have to take the scraps and the pieces of you know what. But we've said this before. They're a lot more dangerous because the fact they come with warm smiles, like they're your friends, like they're fighting on your side. But any chance they get to screw you, they screw you. Max said it on the nose the other day. Said, you're giving all this money to apartheid Israel, yet you can be using this money at home for the housing, and you're not doing it. Why? You know what I'm saying? And we also talked about this funding bill right over here. How are you going to come out there and you're going to be, we got to defund the police, defund the police, defund the police. Then three of you sneakily, you're being sneaky, vote present on a bill so it passes, and then you're going exactly against what you said you were campaigning on. It's almost like the healthcare for all situation. This is the number one issue you said you were going to bring to the table. You're going to get passed. You haven't done shit for it. You wouldn't get involved with Forced to Vote. You wouldn't get involved with the Medicare for All marches. You showed up for one little photo op, Cori Bush.
And Cori Bush has done more than the others. I mean, in terms of the showing up and in terms of doing this. But how do we know that that's not like a planned thing? Like, how do we know that all of this isn't every single calculated move when subsequently after what happened at the Capitol steps, they were all asking for funding? AOC sent out an email requesting funding. Cori Bush sent out texts requesting funding. If this wasn't about you, then why are you so quick to send out emails like, oh, let me pat myself on the back for this, like faux victory as people are getting evicted. Let me pat myself on the back for that. And then also demand money from the working class that is already suffering, and you haven't really done anything tangibly for.
This is what this break from Congress was. This break from Congress was a chance, the 7-week period, to go back and start fundraising for your campaign. That's what it's about. So all this stuff was set up for them to go fundraising on. Plain and simple. Because the very next day when people tried to go out there, when they left, the Capitol Police started kicking them off the steps. So you can't be here. So it was all theater. So they can use this for fundraising. So they can dupe the American people to say, look what I did. I'm Cori Bush. I was an activist then. I'm an activist now. And I'm fighting for you. Fund my campaign. They're all doing that. AOC claiming victory on Instagram. Oh, this is a victory, whatnot. And as we go into the situation, we'll see it's really not a victory at all, because this moratorium is a lot more hocus pocus, fam, than we thought it would be in the first place. And we've also said it wasn't the solution. They didn't say cancel the rent. They said let's kick the can down the road. Plain and simple.
And so
I can't get it up here, but I can read there. You want me to read that, Biden, or?
Yeah, let's just show the video, because Joe Biden just signed a bill, of course, for giving medals to the Capitol Police because of January 6th, and we'll talk about it after. Let's just watch.
Why do they do this to themselves, fam? Isn't there somebody in charge that says, okay, from now on, no pictures of children near Biden at all? No pictures of little girls. He sniffed her shoulder.
Yeah, I know. It's people weren't even paying attention to the fact that, the writer of the crime bill and the Patriot Act is obviously pro pro-military and pro-police because he's too busy sniffing the little girls. So it's like people are like, wait a minute, why is he doing that? She looks uncomfortable. Yeah. She looked really uncomfortable.
And why does the little kid have a mask and then Biden doesn't, Pelosi doesn't? Nobody, I mean, first of all, kids shouldn't be having masks on. Bottom line, that's bullshit. And why doesn't anybody else have a mask if they're so like harping on all these mask mandates and mask saves lives? He's like breathing in her ear.
Yeah, it's none of this makes sense at all. So the bill is HR 1085, and it's to award 3 congressional gold medals to the United States Capitol Police and those who protected the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021.
Wow.
Oh, the virtue signal is great.
This is a giant virtue signal.
Yeah, and I think I have the text if you go to it, Johnny. It's an act, HR 1085, and then it says it right there. Every day, the U.S. Capitol Police protects the U.S. Capitol members of Congress. On January 6th, a mob of insurrectionists forced its way into the U.S. Capitol building and congressional office buildings and engaged in acts of vandalism, looting, and violently attacked Capitol Police officers. The sacrifice of heroes, including Capitol Police officers Brian Sicknick and Howard Liebengold, Metropolitan Police Department officer Jeffrey Smith, and those who sustained injuries, and the courage of Capitol Police officer Eugene Goodman exemplify the patriotism and the commitment of Capitol Police officers and those of other law enforcement agencies to risk their lives in service of our country. Up to 7 Americans died following this violent attack. Literally not all to do with the attacks, but okay. And more than 140 law enforcement officers suffered physical injuries, including 15 officers who were hospitalized. The desecration of the U.S. Capitol, which is the temple of American democracy, and the violence targeting Congress are horrors that will forever stain our nation's history. Worse than 9/11, worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than the Big Bang. And so that's what they did. Yeah, so they did this, guys. Now they get medals, they get more money, right? So all you people who voted for Joe Biden because you thought Trump
mitigating damage
was a fascist, pro-police, pro-Israel. Well, hello, you have Zionist Joe, you have pro-cop giving medals to the cops, you have the squad also voting in line with the Democratic establishment, loving cops too, loving foreign interventions and money to Israel. At least half of them each time take turns depending on what it is. And there you go. And that's who your allies are in Congress. Fiorella, why are you attacking our allies? So, you're so rude to them. You're so mean. You need to be nicer. How am I going to be nicer when their actions are directly contradicting the things they ran on, the things they took money from working class people? Because it's even worse, because if they're not taking, PAC money besides brand new Congress and Justice Democrats, which is still a PAC, if they're not taking PAC money, right, they're from, rich assholes, and they're taking it from us, doesn't that make it worse when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing? No longer is it good enough for you not to take any dark money. It's what you do with the money from the working class. That to me is 10,000 times, more important, because these people don't really have money to give, and they're giving it to you thinking you're going to help them, and then you fucking don't. And so that's that. It's just fucking ridiculous.
Johnny, anything to say on this? All right. You got anything else to say on this?
No, but I think we still have.
No, that's the next subject.
Oh, okay. No,
that's the
then
next
we're
subject
good.
and stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, fam, they show their hypocrisy every single step of the way. All right? When it comes to Medicare for all, when it comes to defunding the police, all the issues that they ran out, that the progressives are so like, oh my God, we got to get done. Mm-hmm. Well, where are the progressives at this when they're doing this in front of their face? Where are they at when they're doing this? I don't hear you calling them out. In fact, you see donkeys on the steps that went after Franco, saying they didn't do this, they didn't do that. Why are we messing with the people who most align with us? TYT, Emma Vigeland, these people align with us and our values and stuff like that. Bullshit. They're here to dupe you. And those people that we just mentioned, they're here to help them dupe you.
They're their narrative
That's why they're exactly. They get paid for it. That's what they do. Acknowledge it. Get on. Unsubscribe. Get out of their faces. Don't pay attention to them anymore. Let's move on. They've showed their true colors. It's time to move on. It's time to go with media that's going to give it to you like it's supposed to be given to you. The truth. That's it. Bottom line. Statistic. Numbers don't lie.